want to know the secret formula for getting in. To do our job well, an admissions officer must be on the receiving end of an entire nation's application panic. You didn't challenge yourself academically.
I'm worth $1 billion.
Endure the frustration of all the parents who just realized there isn't room for every organically fed, well-tutored offspring. Please step away from the car.
Do you like bun cake?
I do not. Let go.
College admissions, perfect for Hollywood humor, but also ripe with teenage angst, generation after generation. Now, one bitter high school senior has become the talk of the internet for penning this open letter in the Wall Street Journal to all the colleges that rejected me. But is the crux of her letter correct? Has college admissions become too cumbersome and cutthroat for the average student? Let's ask an expert. Joining us now is the former dean of admissions for MIT. It's a pretty tough school to get into. She's Mary Lee Jones. Also with us is Kira Goldberg. She's associate editor at the Columbia Journalism Review. Bernard Whitman and Mark Simone are still here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a pretty funny letter that this woman writes. She says, I should have started a fake charity. If there was any closet, I should have come out of it. I wish I had worn a headdress to class, right? I mean, she's making fun of all the touchstones that are supposedly so important. Mary Lee, is she right?
I think she's right. I hate to say it.
What's she right about?
Well, she writes very well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Suzy. You made us all laugh. But she's right about the fact that it's no longer an educational decision. College admissions are really based on a business model. And what she's saying is to get admitted to the big elite schools, you really need to be almost perfect, you know, preternatural in a way, the master race. And that's what I think is there's a corruption happening in the system.
Well, what do you do when there are so many students applying for so few spaces? You've got to make decisions somehow. Is there a better way?
Every university was created for a reason, right? It has a genesis somewhere. It was created, it has a purpose in the world, it has an offering in the world. And I think the problem with colleges and universities is they don't do a good enough job explaining to the people what they are actually here for, who they're looking for. They're not going to tell people who they were looking for because they want to get as many applications as possible, and then they want to take as few of them as possible.
So they can brag.
And they want as many of those to come, and that's the holy trinity of college admissions. College admissions owns 4 of the 16 aspects of the U.S. News and World Report algorithm.
Wow.
And so there's tremendous a lot of responsibility in the admissions office in order to get that number up, move that number up, move that number up. It's not an educational decision anymore. I've been in the business long enough to know, and back in the day it used to be, now it isn't anymore.
Kira, what do you think? Do you agree with this assessment? Or is this girl just a whiny brat?
So I don't agree with her assessment, and but I was coming at it from a different perspective than has college admissions become untenable. So we were talking about this before we came on. I was thinking more along the lines of the Wall Street Journal, which is a conservative-leaning editorial page. I thought it was irresponsible of them to publish this piece.
Because?
Because so I read it, what you read as someone needs to be the perfect, complete package. I read as she was dissing affirmative action. You have the paper there, right?
Yeah, sure. When she talked about either being gay or being a minority.
Right, or, you know, thanks Elizabeth Warren, I salute your 132nd
Cherokee. Yes.
Right. So you may disagree. I think affirmative action is important and necessary and is currently pending a decision before the Supreme Court. And
I have to tell you something. Being Hispanic, I'm often accused of I got where I am because I'm Hispanic, that I actually didn't have the qualities, that I got into schools or I got jobs. I mean, it can actually be a poisonous thing for minorities.
But it's so much more complicated than that, right? Like, it's not just that you weren't qualified, because clearly you were and you are. I'm a fellow women's college person. But it's that if you take the demographics, right, historically, somewhat... again, you can't generalize, but historically, the poverty is disproportionately full of minorities.
I see. So it's more of a class issue when it comes to admissions process, which I would agree with. I mean, if you've got parents who went to college, you're far more likely to send your kids to college. Mark, what do you think of this whole drama?
You know, it's also picking the college where you belong. I always wanted to be in broadcasting, and I still hope to be one day. And across the river from MIT, across the Charles River, was Emerson College, which is the best in broadcasting. Please don't ask me for money if you're at Emerson College. But that's where I belong, and I showed enough talent to get in there. If I had gone to see the nice dean of admissions at MIT, she would have thrown me out of her office because I could barely spell MIT at the time. It's picking a college where you belong and demonstrating some kind of talent, I would think, to the admissions person that impresses them.
But how do you do that, Bernard, when you're studying the humanities?
Well, look, I have to commiserate to some extent with this young woman, having gone through this twice recently with my college-age son. But the fact is, this is symptomatic and emblematic of one of the problems with this entitled generation. She feels that she didn't get what she wanted, she worked hard for it, and so now she's going to bitch, complain, and moan. Frankly, this is a marketing game, and she needs to do a better job of marketing herself. She didn't this time around. I would strongly urge her in the future to take the effort that you put into the Wall Street Journal piece, wrap that into a marketing campaign, and resubmit her application instead of just complaining about it on the pages of the Wall Street Journal.
What she complains about is the way other people market themselves, which in a lot of cases is a falsehood, right?
You know what?
You start some BS charity.
And the way colleges market themselves is a BS.
But we're a hyper-competitive marketing here, and you have got to market yourself in the workforce. You've got to do it in college, and this is an early lesson of failure that probably will go on to make her an extraordinary
And for the rest of your life, you'll always be applying for a job with 1,000 other applicants. You've got to distinguish yourself.
That's exactly why I had such a big problem with this whole thing. People are going to be Googling her for the rest of her life, and even if she, you know, grows up and matures and no longer thinks that diversity is stupid, she will still have that attached to her Google search results.
Yeah, but she's going to end up with a book deal, a reality show.
Well, but we have to ask ourselves, what's the problem? What is the actual reason for education anyway? Is to make people be encourage people to be lifelong learners, right? So the whole rest of your life you're going to want to keep learning, and you want to just keep growing and learn. The way this system is set up, the House owns the rules. Colleges own the rules now. They know what they're looking for. They're admitting people who are very much like them. They know they're a family, right? They consider themselves family. They're picking people like them, but they're not telling the general population who, in fact, they're looking for. They want to get as many applications as possible. So they send out these amazing, seductive recruitment materials.
And your life will be forever better.
She mentioned very beginning that they were lied to, and I agree with them. We lie to kids all the time.
So this is an early lesson in the need to create a clear marketing campaign for yourself, find your niche, and promote it.
Education is not the same thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. All right, Marilee Jones is joining us, Kira Goldberg, Bernard Whitman, and Mark Simone.